Well, guys, he is at it again. Charlie Kirk of Toilet Poop USA. So funny, right? He is on the college campuses again as a 2-year-old male or however old he is, harassing the students who are 14 years younger than he is, debating on various topics, various political topics. In this video, he is going to be debating someone on the massive savings that DOGE has blessed us with. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
I ran for state senate because our government doesn't work well. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of bloat. And yet the things that you're advocating about going against are what help people. Everybody's here because they support freedom. Because as you say, we want a freer market, we want a freer place. And yet these policies like destroying the Department of Education, which I'm a teacher for, hurts our ability to take power in the marketplace. It just adds to the few rich people owning all of us. Right now in America, the top 0.01% have an average $600 million of wealth. The bottom half have an average $7,000. And by destroying the Department of Education...
Charlie doesn't give a shit about that. He does not care. He is a simp for the billionaires. That's his whole career, is justifying the existence of billionaires.
The Center for Budget, the Consumer Protection Bureau, that is actively helping those rich people take all of our money. Prove me wrong.
Okay, so Trump's been president for 6 weeks.
Sure.
Right. So we had an oligarchy as Donald Trump was becoming president.
Yes.
We had all these agencies. How did they prevent the...
And we have less of an oligarchy now that the richest man is literally in control of our government. That's less of an oligarchy, I guess.
oligarchy?
They didn't. No, we have a bad oligarchy, but Trump is increasing our oligarchy. He had Jeff Bezos, he had Tim Cook, he had the richest people on earth who have more money than the bottom half of the country combined, sitting right behind.
Oh, they just attended. They didn't have any involvement with the Trump campaign at all. They didn't donate millions and millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions in the case of Elon Musk. Come on, dude. Come on, Charlie. We're not that dumb.
Hold on a second.
And Elon Musk is helping those regulations get destroyed so they can take even more power.
As an attendee. But let's go through one by one.
And they donated to it.
So let's go one by one.
Sure.
Let's first go to Department of Education. So the Department of Education, which I'm guessing you're in favor of, like $47 million going to improving learning outcomes in Asia.
Yeah,
Okay,
because helping other
The audacity.
helping other people helps us. I'm a teacher. When other people don't match our economy, when they can't participate in it, everybody's hurt by that.
So I do have a question though. We're not even helping ourselves. Why should we help other countries?
So you're right. We should help You're right. We should help
agree.
ourselves
So
more,
the
and that means
question is-
funding the Department
hold
of
on.
Education.
What's funny is Charlie Kirk, he's such a fucking fraud. Why are we spending so much money, which is really, less than 1% of our annual budget? Why are we spending all this money on improving education outcomes in, third world countries and, Sesame Street in Afghanistan or wherever the fuck? Why aren't we spending all that money on us? But Charlie does not. When has he ever advocated for spending more money on social programs in the United States? What he means is we need to, fucking lower regulations, reduce regulations, lower taxes, and that's going to trickle down on all of our faces. No, Charlie Kirk does not give a fuck about the average American. He is a simp for the billionaires. He's paid, or he got his start by a massive endowment from Foster Friess, a fucking hedge fund billionaire. Seriously, when has Charlie Kirk advocated for increasing SNAP benefits, increasing, expanding Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare? Never. Don't believe him when he's like, oh, I can't believe we're spending this money on, other people, brown people, and we're not spending that on ourselves. He does not care.
The question is,
healthcare.
let me finish.
Go.
How does one help oneself? Have educational outcomes gotten better or worse since the creation of the Department of Education?
The bloated Department of Education.
Right, but you have to prove that there might be correlation there, but you have not proved that there's a causal connection between the existence of the DOE or Department of Education and worse educational outcomes. You have a lot of work to do in order to prove that.
You are right. We're spending way too much money on administration. That money needs to be go to funding school meals. That needs to be reducing class sizes.
You sound like a
and having
DOGE
more
advocate,
teachers.
man.
No, because DOGE is not doing that. By destroying the Department of Education, they're not funding Title I classrooms. If we funded Title I classrooms with the money that we promised,
are they
every
doing?
single classroom would get a paraprofessional, which would help my students immensely.
So
they are failing. And as you're saying before, that Florida is the most equitable state, it's not. The richest students get $2,000 more to their schools every year than the fourth quartile students.
So I am curious, though, that the Department of Education, we've seen standards go down.
He's just going to completely ignore everything this guy said. Fuck all that stuff. Let me go back to the Department of Education existing and that proving that it has resulted in worse education outcomes.
They want to send it back to the states. By definition, we have the Department of Education. 11 million people are in education like yourself. 11 million of them. 6.7 million are administrators. 6.7 million are administrators. Can we agree we should fire most of those administrators?
It would look. I can't say that because I don't know what those administrators are doing. I think we have way too much
Hold
money
on, you're a
going
teacher.
to them.
Time out. I got to interrupt
No.
you. Are you a teacher?
Yeah.
What do the administrators in your school do?
They help us out a lot. I mean, do you think I could manage my classroom if I didn't?
Absolutely.
You are wrong.
No,
I could not manage my classroom unless I had an administration helping me out.
You need 5 administrators or 1 teacher. That's the ratio.
That's bad. You're right. That's bad.
Okay, but that's the current ratio.
So
5 to 1. But secondly, let me ask you. This is a very important
point. It should be reduced, but destroying the Department of Education is not the answer, because then you hurt the American economy by not allowing people to build up their human capital.
Time out.
Yeah, there's a difference between like looking at, oh, do we actually need this ratio of administrators? There's a difference between that and a scorched earth policy of just cutting everything. I'm just gonna cut this whole thing. I don't care what happens afterwards, as long as I get my sweet tax break. I can buy a nice new yacht.
We already have the evidence. From the advent of Department of Education, we are now 26 in education. We were top 5 when it started. We're the lowest in reading, math, arithmetic in the Western world. Department of Education has made our standards substandard, and we spend $250 billion a year on the Department of Education, and yet our kids we can't find a single kid that can read at grade level in a Baltimore public school or that. In
Baltimore, in a specific location, that means that's how it is everywhere. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there are different, there's a different spending per student in every single, district in the United States with different outcomes. It's weird that the wealthier districts have better education outcomes. That's weird. Why is that? There's probably a lot of reasons, but they spend more per student than your average, poor district.
I can do math in a Chicago public school, and yet we keep on spending billions of dollars on it. So maybe the solution is crush the current system, send the money back to the states, empower families and parents, moms and dads.
What does sending it back to the states even mean? Like, look, I'm not an expert on this. I'm actually, a common moron. But what does that mean? Sending back to the states does what? Explain to me what that does.
Spend the money as they see fit, more choice, more competition, and make it localized, not federalized.
So here's,
dude, education should not be, at least public education should not be subject to market competition and fluctuations. We should just fucking fund all the schools equitably so that every child, regardless of their, parents, their families' socioeconomic status, they get a good education. Like, there is a reason that, the Nordic countries have higher education outcomes, and it's not because they unshackle the public education system so that it's, subject to market whim. It's because they fund the shit out of their education programs, or of their public education, right? Even university tuition. It's free. It's free because they recognize that if we have a more educated population across the wealth spectrum, we're gonna have a better society. They just understand that as a fact, and so they have better educational outcomes because they actually value that. And they also don't have private schools, right? This whole sending it back to the states bullshit and letting parents choose the this and that, all that does is create more inequality. And then we fund these voucher programs that are not enough to allow poor people to participate in them, but they're just enough to give a massive subsidy to wealthy people because they can afford the total amount with the voucher included, whereas people who don't make anything, the voucher does nothing because it doesn't cover the whole cost. So the voucher program is a scam.
Here's the problem. The state of Florida introduced a bill. My opponent introduced a bill to provide $7,000 for school choice in Florida. That's government waste. A lot of that money is going to Disney, to cruises. That's increased waste. It's also every dollar that's taken out of the Florida public education system given to private families. 75% of that is going to families.
You're against school choice?
75%. I'm not against school choice as long as we fund education properly, but 75% of the money is going to families that can.
And also another problem is that we fund education through property tax. That's the root of the problem. It's through property tax. That's why you have these big disparities between wealthy school districts and poor school districts.
Already afford education, which means my students are getting $3 billion taken out of their education to go directly to the richest Floridians.
Hold on, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're against the money going to homeschooling? Like, what do you mean by this Disney thing? You're talking way too fast.
So we need money going to where it's needed, to school meals.
What is your critique? You're saying $3 billion going to what? I'm not.
So $3 billion is being taken out of the public education system
and going
given directly to the people who can already afford a private education.
For what reason?
To help people get their private education.
Okay.
The problem
this is the voucher program, right? I assume that's what he's talking about.
There also weren't restrictions on that to limit what the private schools could raise their tuition by.
You're totally wrong. I get what you're saying. What you're saying, though, well, it's because...
Show me the facts.
It's their taxpayer dollars that are coming back as a refund, right?
It's also the public taxpayer dollars that put into public money, and they were given back to private individuals rather than going to the public system.
It's their own money that's coming back.
Rich people stealing our tax dollars.
Hold on. It's easy to say, the rich people,
yeah.
Right?
The 75% of the money is going to private education.
How do you define rich, by the way? How much money a year is rich?
If you can afford a private education, which is anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000 a year, you are rich. And 75% of the money going to the private and 75% of the money go. Half of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. If you can afford $40,000, you're richer than most people. Now, 75%. 75% of the money that is going from the public education system into the private system is going to those who can already afford private education.
What is the number one predictor of student success?
How many years a teacher has been an educator?
Yeah, actually, the quality of this teacher. So, can we agree at least, because we'll not agree on everything, that we should be able to fire teachers at will?
At will is what do you mean at will? For what cause?
If you're a bad teacher.
What do you mean by bad teacher?
I mean, you're on
the
the line.
No, what do you mean by bad teacher?
Yeah, someone who doesn't listen to their students, is not good at what they do, graded by other teachers.
For cause, not at will. Yes, we should fire teachers for cause.
Okay, but I think that do we have too many teachers or not enough teachers?
In Hillsborough County alone, we're missing 1,200 across the state of Florida. Across the state of Florida,
we need
there are 5,000
teachers.
We need better. That's 50,000 students without an educator. You asked me a question. Let me finish.
We need better, higher paid teachers.
Yes, absolutely. And Florida has the.
Oh, really? How do we pay for higher paid teachers? How do we do that? Where does that money come from, Charlie? Taxes. Ooh, scary.
The 8th lowest average teacher pay.
Why do you think that is?
Because we have a Republican-controlled state for the past 30 years that are increasingly taking away money for teachers.
But hold on. If I'm not mistaken, Florida is in the top 5, if not the number 1, on educational outcomes for students, right?
On them passing, not actual outcomes. On them passing.
Hold on. Florida education ranking. Ranked number 1 in higher education, which, yeah, of course, oh, Harvard's ranked number 1, but who can go there? Rich people. We're talking about public education. Stank. The state ranked number 1 in higher education subcategory and number 10 in pre-K through 12. So, not really top 5.
So that's number 1 in the country, I think, though, right? And it was like
not actually
in the top 5, if not the number 1 on educational outcomes for students, right?
on them passing, not actual outcomes, on them passing.
So that's number 1 in the country, I think, though, right? And it was like number 30 or 40 back before school choice was. So I'm just curious at your complaint here. It's fine. Let's just kind of go back to the thing. We'll go to the next question.
Sure.
The Department of Education, why should the federal government have any role in education?
Because that spending that
It's crazy. He's like, oh, well, Florida has went from 30 or 40 to number 1, which it hasn't, because of school choice. It was school choice that did that. Then why is Norway, Sweden, Finland number 1, or, in the top 5 in the whole world? None of them have school choice. How is it they're able to be at the top without school choice? Oh, that's right, because they spend a lot of money on education. Because they recognize that as a social good, a social necessity.
that money on helping people helps the entire
That's
economy.
not
No,
even-
wait,
that's
let me
not where
finish.
the money's
Let me
going, though.
finish. Helping people helps the entire economy.
How
When you
has
let
that
people,
worked?
When you let people fall through the cracks, it destroys our economy. It's more expensive. When you take away the Consumer Protections Bureau that helps $16 billion of scams go back to the American people, that helps our economy because then they can take place in the marketplace. What you're advocating for is to reduce the things that push people into the marketplace, to increase the barriers, and to destroy the freedom of our marketplace.
Again, you have not answered the question. Let's just reiterate it. Department of Education
That answer, because it helps people.
got started in
and helps the economy as a whole.
1979.
That
We
was my
start
question.
with the same sort of nice sounding stuff we started to do over the last 35, 40 years. And we have the lowest standards ever had. We have childhood poverty all over the place. We have broken public schools because spending money from DC.
Wait, how does the Department of Education increase childhood poverty? Wait, what? What? Why did he say that?
We have childhood poverty all over the place. We have broken public schools because spending money from DC does not solve the problem. Empowering parents does.
So actually-
parental agency is the solution, not not bureaucratic empowerment.
Spending money on spending. The federal
Gotta get to the
government-
next one.
1 second. The federal government spending money based solely on tests hurts people. Because then we don't get the money going to critical thinking, which your misinformation machine succeeds on. Because when people can't critically think,
All
they
right,
accept
hold on.
your
I
assertions
got it.
as reality.
So last question. Hold on. So you would say I'm a misinformation machine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Fine. You're a teacher. Yes. What is a woman?
What is a woman?
Oh my god. This is what they always go back to, dude. They're obsessed with trans people. Why are they so obsessed with trans people? They care more about trans women than other trans women. It's creepy. It's weird. There's some salacious folders on Charlie Kirk's personal computer. Do they still call it personal computers? On his phone. He has one of those fake calculator apps that's just full of trans pee. He's like he can't make any substantive arguments about education in this country and what would really solve the problems. So this is their fallback. They always bring up this what is a woman bullshit. Like it's relevant.
Oh, buddy. All right. So we define gender as a set of preferences that you have.
Dude, these people hate nuance, man. They hate nuance so much. Nope, gender is... There's only two, and they only do, one thing each. They are exactly the same. All men are exactly the same. All women are exactly the same. They all do the same stuff, within their respective gender. And that's the end of it. Look at how smart I am.
Gender.
Okay, well, anyway, we've gotten we've gotten off the rails here. Of course, that's their MO. Charlie Kirk and other right wing dipshits. But anyway, so of course Charlie Kirk is going to advocate for, you know, privatizing school as much as possible. Things like school choice, which don't, you know, ultimately improve education outcomes in any meaningful way, you know, in the aggregate. But I mean, this is what they advocate. They want to defund as many government programs as possible, and then say, "Oh, look at how terrible they are." Well, it's because you defunded them. Of course, they would have worked if you didn't slash their budgets. We have proof that spending a lot of money on education, like they do in Scandinavia, works. Your education is not determined by how wealthy you are. But that's how Charlie Kirk and his ilk want the world to be like. Is if you are wealthy, you get all the good stuff. If you are not, who gives a fuck? You're poor. All right, guys. Well, that's enough for me. I'm going to go take a nap. Love you guys. Bye-bye.